Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the secret journey of consumer debt. We'll see how a simple credit card balance can travel from a bank through the complex machinery of Wall Street and sometimes end up right in your local courthouse.
So let's start with a situation that might sound a little too familiar. You get a court summons in the mail for an old debt, but it's from a company you have literally never heard of. XYZ Capital? Who are they? How in the world are they suing you?
Well, to answer that, we're going to do a little detective work. We're going to follow the path of one single account. By tracing its journey from start to finish, we're going to uncover how a system built for financial speed can create some major problems when it comes to legal proof.
Okay, so where does this all begin? It doesn't start on Main Street. Nope, it starts on Wall Street with a really powerful process that transforms your personal debt into a global financial product.
It all revolves around this big, fancy word, securitization. But it's actually a pretty simple idea. Banks take thousands, sometimes millions, of individual credit card debts, bundle them all together into one giant pool, and then they sell off slices of that pool to investors. All of a sudden, your debt isn't just your debt anymore, it's part of a security being traded around the world.
Now, here's a clever bit of financial engineering. Banks don't sell this debt directly. They do something called a true sale to a completely separate company, a special purpose vehicle, or SPV. And this is so important because it makes the SPV bankruptcy remote. That means if the original bank goes bust, the investors who bought the securities are still protected.
To manage risk, the SPV then slices these securities into different levels, called tranches. Think of it like a waterfall. The payments from all those debts flow in at the top. The investors in the safest, senior tranches get paid first. The investors in the riskiest, equity tranche at the bottom, get paid last. But they get a much higher return for taking on the risk of being the first to lose money if people start to default.
But you see, that whole Wall Street machine is really designed for loans that are being paid on time. So what happens when an account actually defaults? Well, that's when it leaves the clean, organized world of securitization and enters a second, much messier market. And here's something you have to understand. Your charged-off account isn't sold by itself. The original bank takes it, bundles it together with thousands of other defaulted accounts into a massive portfolio, and then sells the whole thing for pennies on the dollar to a company called a debt buyer.
And this is where the paper trail can become an absolute tangled mess. That first debt buyer might try to collect for a while. Then they'll take all the accounts they couldn't get money from, repackage them, and sell that portfolio to another debt buyer. As you can see in this real-world example, a single debt could be sold 6 different times. It creates this long, convoluted chain of ownership that can be really hard to follow.
So after this long, complex journey, passing through multiple hands, the debt finally arrives at its last stop, the local courthouse, where a lawsuit gets filed. You know, after all that financial wizardry and all those portfolio sales, the whole legal case comes down to one simple, fundamental question. The company suing you has the absolute burden of proof. They have to show the court that they are the legal owner of your specific account. Now, to meet that burden, they generally need to produce 3 key documents. There's the master agreement for all their sales, a specific bill of sale for the exact portfolio that's supposed to have your account in it, and, this is the most important part, the data file, the actual spreadsheet that lists your name and account number as being part of that sale. All 3 have to connect perfectly. Now that sounds pretty straightforward, doesn't it? But providing this proof is exactly where the whole system often breaks down. Let's look at the most common ways this chain of ownership just shatters in court. Okay, the number 1 most common failure is a missing link. The debt buyer shows up with a bill of sale that says they bought a portfolio of, say, 10,000 accounts as detailed in Exhibit B. But then, they can't produce Exhibit B. Without that specific data file, they have no proof your account was actually one of the 10,000 they bought. Another huge failure point is a broken chain of title. The law demands a perfect match at every single step. So if Discover Bank sells a debt to Vision Nevada Incorporated, but the company trying to sue you is Vision Management Services, the chain is legally broken right there unless they have extra paperwork to prove the connection. And you know what? Sometimes the chain is broken before a debt buyer is even in the picture. Decades of bank mergers have created this tangled web of who owns what. So if you're being sued on an old Providian credit card, the debt collector has to legally prove how Providian became Washington Mutual, and then how Washington Mutual's assets ended up with Chase, all before they can even begin to prove that Chase sold it to them.
And the proof they bring to court has to be actual, admissible evidence. In one real case, a collector's entire proof of a bank merger was a New York Times article and a Wikipedia page they printed out. Needless to say, the court rejected it. The legal standards for evidence are just much, much higher than that.
So, the key takeaway here is that these aren't just minor mistakes or procedural slip-ups. Each broken link we've talked about, a missing data file, a mismatched company name, an unproven bank merger, it goes to the fundamental legal right of that company to even be in the courtroom. Without an unbroken chain, they simply have no case.
And all of this leaves us with a final, really provocative question. This whole journey, from Wall Street securitization to the aftermarket of debt buyers, it highlights a huge distinction in our financial system. There's a big difference between actually owing a debt and a specific company being able to legally prove they have the right to collect it.